Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Japan, Japanese language English subs, released in the year 1989, directed by Shinya Sakamoto, and this film is called Tetsuo the Iron Man. So Tetsuo the Iron Man is about this man. He is a metal fetishist, so he gets off by basically inserting metal inside his body for reasons that are unexplained. And then one day he's out on the street and he gets hit by a car and he's left for dead. And so this couple that were driving the car start to experience very strange things because they've done something that they're not supposed to, that I'm not going to give away, but they start to experience very strange things when metal starts turning up inside their bodies. And so they think that the pedestrian they've hit is actually still with them. And things get very, very strange and very dangerous, and it's basically a hellish descent into the world of insanity. So what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Tetsuo the Iron Man. If you're a fan of Japanese film, you know how crazy Japanese movies are. And so when I love crazy films, and there's been so many Japanese crazy movies that I've loved, but everyone was saying if you love crazy Japanese stuff, you have to see the Tetsuo films. Now there are a few of these movies, but Tetsuo the Iron Man was the first one. And for the longest time I was curious, but I wasn't overly excited to see it. It's an older kind of film, and the movies that I really like are the newer type. But I just thought to myself, well, it's interesting, but I didn't really have any excitement to go out there and track it down. But then as the years went by and I'm starting to get into the older extreme films, not only in Japan but worldwide, I thought to myself, alright, well maybe it is time to see Tetsuo. And so I saw the synopsis, I saw the trailer, and I thought this definitely looks like everything that is in insane Japan. And so I was hoping that I was going to get something that was going to be memorable. And I will say, that's exactly what I got. This is an incredibly crazy movie. It's bizarre, it's surreal, and it's definitely a movie that has me in two minds. On one side, I can appreciate the fact that it is just a hellish journey into madness. It's something that is out of this world. It is typical of Japanese insanity, and it's very unconventional. It doesn't follow conventional methods of storytelling, and that's something I always appreciate. And Tetsuo is definitely a fine example of that. It doesn't follow the rules of cinema. It is definitely a movie that has its own heart, and it's basically doing things that it wants to do as opposed to what it thinks the viewer will want to see. And so for that I have to give it credit. And it only goes for 67 minutes, and so I thought it had self-awareness, is that for a movie this crazy and with unconventional storytelling, it can't go on too long, because after a while the novelty of that unconventional element starts to wear thin a little bit and you want a little bit more. But the movie never falls into that trap. The movie is over before you know it, and so I never thought as though this movie was lagging, and so that's something I really liked. I thought the cinematography being in black and white added to that very surreal quality. I thought that the acting was really strange. I thought the fact that this metal fetishist was, starts up the film in a very, very strange way, and you don't know exactly what's going on, but there's a glimpse of what this movie could be about. Now, whether it is a movie about guilt, whether it's a movie about a guilty conscience and things weighing on you literally in this film, with the metal and everything, a literal sort of your guilty conscience weighing on you because of things that you've done in the past. I'm not going to give anything away, I don't want to spoil it, but I thought to myself, amongst all the craziness, there were glimpses of actually something that was very stable within a very unstable world. And I thought that was interesting. What was Shinya Sakamoto actually trying to do with Tetsuo? Is it supposed to be just a straight out trip into insanity that isn't supposed to make sense, like an insane person is, basically very muddled and confused? Is it supposed to be just a disorientating film, or underneath the surface, if you're prepared to look, is there a deeper meaning? Is there a meaning that is actually quite stable? And so the movie does have a lot of fascinating elements. I just thought as though there was some uses of the camera that were fantastic. Shinya Sakamoto, he demonstrates a high level of capability with the camera, and some of the ways that the shaky cam and all that kind of stuff, it gives you that disorientation, that descent into madness that each and every character was facing. So it is an extreme film. Not only is it extremely weird, it is extremely violent, and it's also sexually violent. So be very careful. As I said, this is everything that Japanese insanity is, and so that was something that I liked. But as I said, it's completely crazy, and it's just, I thought to myself, it's losing itself a little bit. it's kind of reveling in the insanity to a point where it does become it feels like a complete mess. It feels like an insane director has just had an episode and he's just splashing everything on the screen. And after a while, it starts to bombard you to a point where you yourself feel concussed. And when you're concussed, you're not really thinking properly, you're not really following things properly. And I felt as though I was this character on this journey. And that's something I really like, but it's also something I think gets in the way a little bit. I thought that there was no real focus on one particular element, and as I said, that's unconventional storytelling, but I just think as though with a little bit of a story mixed in with the insane sort of camera, the uses of the camera, I thought could have been a lot better. Is that this is definitely a film for a very acquired taste. It's not going to branch out to a wide audience, which is something again that I can really appreciate, but I just thought to myself, it gets a little bit too silly. And unfortunately, it does cloud, well, it doesn't really cloud the enjoyment because, as I said, it's a very short film, but it's just a movie that it made me feel as though I didn't know whether I loved it or hated it. And again, that's everything I want from a film, and that's what I could really appreciate about Tetsuo. I thought it was very competently made. It had demonstrations of high capabilities as far as filmmaking is concerned, but I just thought as though it's a little bit too out there, it's a little bit too insane to really recommend to a wide audience. So putting that aside, I really enjoyed, I can say I enjoyed this film. Whether or not I loved it, remains to be seen. I didn't hate it at all, but I can see a lot of people hating it. And so it really split me down the middle. There were things that I really liked, and there were other things that I thought it would have been a little bit better if they just reined it back a little bit, maybe took a little bit of medication and just slowed down to some degree. But putting that aside, it is definitely memorable, it's definitely different, and that's the kind of thing Tetsuo the Iron Man will impress you. So overall, I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars. Not brilliant, but then again, as I said, it will last in the memory. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.